Happy Tuesday, my friends. Hope everybody's week is off to an amazing start. As usual, we're trying something new here. And so today we're going to go through some of the headlines. You can see we're here on the Epoch Times. We'll start there. We'll see what Bloomberg has for us. We'll do a docket update. I think I've got Sussmann and a few others I want to take a look at, including Trump versus Clinton, some of the others. Then we'll see what is happening with some stories over on locals. We'll take a look at some of the comments on YouTube, and that will be the agenda for today's video. Of course, we'll have other videos coming out later, but let's see what we've got over on the Epoch Times. And so I like to go here because their coverage, I think, is, relevant, let's say. And there were some stories that I was looking at earlier, and the one that stood out to me is this one here. Biden administration to suspend the gasoline sales ban on E15 style gasoline. And so I was reading about this and I was thinking, that's interesting. It sort of reminds me of gasoline inflation. Everything else is inflating. Dollar is worth less and less. Cost of goods is worth more and more. And why wouldn't they just sort of inflate the gasoline? And I don't just mean the dollar inflating. I actually mean like inflating the gasoline. So you get more, you sort of get less gas in your gallon because they're going to fill it with more ethanol. And so I know that this is something that happens, sort of regularly. They have different blends, and I'm not an expert on gasoline. But here, Joe Biden is going to announce on Tuesday that the Environmental Protection Agency is planning to allow E15 gasoline that uses 15% ethanol blend to be sold this summer. Now, normally they cut that off over the summer because it's not environmentally friendly and because it sort of wrecks your gas mileage, apparently. RFA notes that the E15 blend been priced 15 to 20 cents per gallon less than regular gasoline. More ethanol means more savings at the pump. American families continue to struggle, so they're happy about it. Let's see. Currently sold in 2,300 gas stations. The waiver is something that will, I think, be issued closer to June 1. Fuel prices hit a record low. Now, there's criticism here. This article doesn't really look like it gets into it too much. But there's criticism about this because apparently it increases smog and it is something that lowers your fuel sort of efficiency, right? So you get lower miles per gallon with this type of gas than you would with other blends, is at least how I read it in another article somewhere. But the idea is that you're getting less gasoline for your dollar. So the gasoline is being inflated. Isn't that fun? So everything is inflation everywhere you look. Back over at the Epoch Times, we've got the Ghost Guns saga that took place yesterday. Didn't make a video on that. It's kind of hard to make firearms related videos because every single platform has issues with them. But here you can see Biden announces restrictions on these, nominates an ATF director. We've paid attention to some of this. We made the video that the ATF was creating some sort of secretive rules about FRTs, these triggers that allow somebody to fire a little bit more quickly. And here, Biden came out yesterday. Now he came out and he's announcing that he's going to be requiring people to register these kits, unregistered firearms that can be built using a kit online. Biden's rule will require that the kits that can be used to build a gun are registered as such. Includes an effort to serialize ghost guns. And he went and out and, did this whole stupid thing yesterday. Now, I didn't watch it. I was recording videos on the fake Department of Homeland Security saga, which we'll update on. Let's just update that here. So there was a lot of activity going on in this case. Yesterday, I made 3 different videos on this, and it's not going to be like that indefinitely, but I want to show you why, right? There was a ton of activity yesterday. So all of this took place on April 10th, all of this, 11th, all of this stuff. And so I wanted to make sure that we paid special attention to it. And so I did 2 videos. One for each defendant, one for Ali, one for Tazi, detailing their efforts to get out of custody. Of course, their attorneys proffered forward their arguments as to why they shouldn't be detained any longer. So we went through both of those in detail. And then we also covered the court hearing. Sarah and Lynch on Twitter did the detention hearing, which was yesterday. And I thought I had prepped the video for an outcome, a ruling, a decision. Are they staying in or staying out? And then it turns out the judge didn't make a decision, so he bumped it again. And so we have that coming up today. We see there was a minute entry that They're going to have another, basically a third detention hearing scheduled on 4/12 at 11 a.m. So that's today. It's going to be telephonic again. And the judge is going to have a ruling, presumably. We've got public defender Shelley Peterson there, Gregory Smith, Joshua Rothstein, U.S. prosecutor. We're all there. They're coming back again. It's set for 4/12 at 11 before the detention hearing is for the bond status at 4 p.m. So it's going to be all day of detention hearings, basically, for these guys. And I very likely will have an update on them. Now, it's an interesting position to be in right now because, as I covered yesterday, there was a supplemental motion that came out, and I don't think that's here. There was a separate supplemental that was filed by the by the prosecutor to make the argument that these guys should not be let out. And so I did talk about that one. The judge has some new information. I think he's really going to try to keep these people in custody, but it's kind of a weak case coming from the prosecutors because they're talking a lot about these, gun crimes and things that they're sort of speculating about, but they haven't been charged with those things. And so, you might say that those are bad and there's a lot of problems with some of the implications of their activities, but you got to be able to prove it. You can't just say, well, I kind of don't like this person. In our justice system, that's not the right standard. So we'll see what happens with this one. The judge is a little bit confused, or really kind of twisting himself up a little bit here. We're on our third opportunity to have this decided. So we'll cover that one, certainly. And we've got, let's see if there's anything else good over at the Epoch Times. Let's see here. Texas clogs port of entry as the state forces attention on illegal immigration. Yeah, this is going to be a big problem. So I think that Joe Biden pulled out of, Title 42, which basically is a mechanism. Yeah, there it is. Abbott made the announcement several days after Biden stated he wants to end Title 42, which related to the pandemic expulsions that were on the border. Now, in other words, people would come to the border and they would impose Title 42. They would say, or use that as justification to say, no, we can't let you in because of the pandemic, because the whole world is melting down and blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns out the whole world's not melting down anymore, and we can revoke that Title 42. And so what's that going to do? Well, people are speculating it's going to cause a big surge in the border. I think is this season 3 of this? I think it is. Wasn't there season 1 back in 2021? Then we had, did we have a surge this year yet? It's hard to keep track. I don't know if we're on season 2 or season 3 of the border surge. I mean, definitely we're on season 2. Definitely, right? Because we had the whole thing that was set up there at the port down there in Texas where they literally created that Haitian migrant camp, like 10,000 people. Then they came and bulldozed the whole place out. Remember that? That was crazy. Yeah. So I think we're on season 2 or 3, not sure. But Texas clogs the port of entry, forces attention on illegal immigration. So that will be, is it sort of like a new trucker convoy? I'm not sure, but we're going to get a lot more of those stories, I'm sure of it. Let's see what Bloomberg's got for us. Bloomberg here, politics, update on Ukraine. Putin calls talks with Kyiv to be at a dead end. They say here, Vladimir said peace talks are stalled.
Впевнені, що зможуть зробити так, що світ їм це забуде.
Here's Zelensky. Let's see what he said.
Забуде або від претензій.
We'll forget this for them. Europe will forget this. They have extremely simple logic. They say everybody needs to trade. Everybody needs oil. Yeah. Who's he talking to here? Next sentence, please. Everybody would want to use the Russian market, the great market. That is what they think in Moscow. It is known that if everyone in Europe were as principled and as respecting of European values as you, and we are the same as you, then I'm sure the Russian authorities would have surely not been as sure as they would be able to get away with anything. You know, Zelensky's been a little bit insulting to to a lot of the different world leaders who don't just capitulate and do exactly what he wants. And it's kind of irritating to people like me. Putin says, maybe because I am just, out of the loop on justice in this part of the world, I guess. Putin says peace talks at a dead end. The military operation is going according to plan, Putin said at a joint press conference with Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. In his first public comments on the atrocities reported in Bucha, said that the alleged allegations that Russia were responsible were fake. Putin accused Ukraine of backing off earlier concessions. The government in Kyiv says it has not changed its position and in turn blames Russia for the lack of progress. Meanwhile, Russia's economy has withstood the sanctions blitzkrieg, Putin said, citing the recovery of the ruble exchange rate, but he conceded that logistics and payment systems remain a weakness and the long-term impact could be more painful. So other updates. Airbus still buying Russian titanium. OPEC sees war curbing oil supply. World Bank announces $1.5 billion for Ukraine. Number of people returning to Ukraine surges. People going home. Wow. Number of people returning jumped to 30,000 per day. What? Said according to Andrei Demchenko. Within the first days of the war, people were piling out. Now there are more women, elderly people returning, said Demchenko in a video briefing. UN said more than 4.3 million refugees fled. Some 7.1 million displaced. More headlines here. Looks like a post. The president of Ukraine adjusts the Lithuanian parliament. Ukraine says it's thwarted a cyber attack. You know, and I was thinking about this the other day, the cyber attack business. Remember how dangerous we said that Russia was with their cyber capabilities? You know, weren't they responsible for rigging an election and all that stuff? Allegedly. You know, and they were saying that they were going to take out, entire, infrastructure capabilities. Now, I'm not speculating or hoping or asking or challenging, that to happen here in the United States. It very well may happen. It could happen. And, we could all be sitting here and going, it's pretty powerful of those Russians, what they did there. But, if they are so capable, why are they sort of not being able to take out the Ukrainian operations there? Their defenses seem to be pretty decent. Why are the Russians not able to get the upper hand on the intelligence battlefield front? I mean, it seems like I read another article that Ukraine was using their World Economic Forum app, the DIA app, DIIA, I think is what it's, DIA. This is a Ukrainian app launched in 2020, allows Ukrainian citizens to upload their digital documents, benefits, problems, challenges. 26 million driver's licenses are issued through it. Now, my understanding is, or I read somewhere, maybe it was on Twitter, I don't know how true it is, but that they were also using this app to basically communicate about the locations of Russian troops and Russian sort of assault teams. They were uploading them. Oh, I saw them here, saw them here, saw them there. And then the Ukrainian, defense capabilities would then take that data and respond. And that seems like it might be something worth disrupting if you're a Russian, intelligence operation of mass sophistication that's capable of those things. But haven't seen much of that. But, again, what do I know? We're sort of all playing armchair quarterback, I think, on this thing in one way, shape, or form. But my the lens that I look through as I'm sort of observing these things is to basically just question everything, to question everything that's coming from our government. I really don't like, and their government. I really do not like it when everybody has to jump on a bandwagon. You got to get on it or you're an enemy of the people. We would just live this with COVID, and I'm just not going to do it again here. So back over on the Epoch Times, we were over on Bloomberg. Let's see if there's anything else on Bloomberg here. Americas, we've got FAA. Ukraine update, U.S. warns India over the Russian imports. Biden administration advances plan for nursing homes. More jab news. New York lieutenant governor indicted in a bribery case. We've got a bad politician here. Let's see what this one's about. Benjamin accused of donations, quid pro quo as a state senator. Charges come after Hochul replaced Cuomo. New York is just a mess. Kathy Hochul's second in command was indicted on federal bribery charges. Surrendered to authority. They say he had a failed campaign for New York City comptroller. They come after Hochul took office in August following the resignation of Cuomo. According to the indictment, unsealed on Tuesday, Benjamin participated in a scheme from 2019 to 21, used campaign donations from a real estate developer. In exchange, used his authority as a state senator to obtain a $50,000 grant for a non-profit organization controlled by the developer. Abused his authority. I was wondering if that was over on the Department of Justice news press releases. Let's see here. That would have come out yesterday. So their headlines, I don't see it here. Former Goldman Sachs, massive bribery. So the Justice Department, the DOJ, they released these as well. You can see here. Former Department of Homeland Security employee convicted of a scheme. Now, this apparently is not one of the two fake DHS agents that we were talking about, but this is interesting. So let's see if this is related at all. So they don't actually give us the indictment. Charges involve theft of proprietary software and sensitive databases from the U.S. government. That's fun. Former acting branch chief of IT division of U.S. Homeland Security convicted today. Oh, so this is an older case. So he's already been through trial. Multiple federal charges. We have this guy, Murali Venkata, age 56, conspiracy to defraud the government. Worked as acting inspector general. Wow. And Sonal Patel, another U.S., they executed a scheme to steal confidential proprietary software from the government, along with personally identifying information of hundreds of thousands of federal employees. Venkata worked for DHS until he was placed on leave. Before he joined, he worked for the Postal Service, case management. Edwards pled guilty earlier. They were stealing property to develop a commercial version of a case management system offered for sale to government agencies. Okay, yeah, right. So, okay, yeah, right. So I think what their excuse was, oh, we just needed the data. Like we needed a sample database so that we could create our own CRM, our own, a CMS here, case management system, so that we could go ahead and populate it with this data and just make sure that the database that you use works with our software. That's all we were doing. We weren't gathering the personally identifying information of hundreds of thousands of government employees. Oh my gosh. Combined with the DHS story, you always kind of thought that the Department of Homeland Security was kind of a joke, right? Like they scan your genitals at the airport and that's about the extent of their capabilities. So this mostly confirms it. They have fake agents and apparently inspector generals stealing databases of everybody. It's just not good. Not good at all. All right, so let's see what else we have. Let's check the docket. We've got a Michael Sussmann update here. We've got some activity over the last few days or so. Scrolling all the way down, a lot of stuff going on here. Sussmann. Okay, so we've got a minute entry that came in on April 11th. That was yesterday. Court sets the following briefing schedule on the government's motion to compel. Opposition is due by 4/18. So that's going to be, what is that, Monday, Tuesday? Yeah, it's going to be Monday. See here, government's reply shall be due by the end of April. Court's going to hear oral arguments on the other motions, April 27th. All right, so we'll get those dates, calendar, and pay attention to that. But basically here, you see the motion. We've got several motions that have been filed previously. So the government filed a motion 64. Let's see where this one is. It's not here on the, there it is. Motion to compel the production of the documents. So here, the U.S. government, you can see, filed a motion. They're asking the defense to prepare documents, to produce documents, give those documents to the judge, and then ask the judge to disclose those things over to the government, to the prosecution. Motion to compel the production. Saying, judge, tell Sussmann and his defense lawyers that they got to give you those documents. You can look at them. If you think we should have them, then you can give them to us. And so the judge is saying, well, just basically, I need a response from the defense here. You guys tell me what you think about that motion by 4/18. Government, you can issue your reply by the end of April. We'll hear where that one goes. Oral arguments on the other motions. A lot of activity on this case, too. So, this is what happens when you have very good lawyers. They are filing all sorts of motions in limine. He's got two defense lawyers who, are basically, I think, fighting on behalf of the DNC. Like, if this loses, this is kind of a symbolic battle for them. So they've got some pretty amazing lawyers. Because remember, Sussmann is sort of the tip of the spear. If this thing gets out of control, well, then it can go over, implicate Mark Elias, who is a Democratic hero for the Clintons, for the entire DNC, really. And it might even go over to Hillary or people who are up in her higher upper echelon, people like Podesta. We'll see where it goes. But you can see, right, they are fighting hard on this one, and we'll continue to follow it. We also have Bannon. Bannon had some activity, I think, this week. So Bannon was down here April 6th. No, that was last week. Let's see here. We have a new update April 6th. So remember that we have a situation where Bannon wants more time. And so he filed a motion at some point asking for an extension of time to file the motion to dismiss the indictment, saying that, basically we need to prepare stuff. The government has all this evidence. They're dragging their feet and giving it to us. And so we need more time. Now, the judge had already ruled against him. And I made a video about this, kind of a bad ruling for Mr. Bannon. Judge came out and issued an order saying that they can't rely on I was just listening to my lawyer defense. Right? One of Bannon's defense was he didn't go to the congressional committee, hearing when he got the subpoena to do that, because he was saying, my attorney told me not to go do that. Judge just said, well, you can't really rely on that defense. So that was a loss. But they're still filing this motion to dismiss the general indictment, and that will be coming soon. We have the parties shall file any motions by April 15th. So that's going to come up this week. Ooh, good. So we'll get that soon. Probably that looks like by Friday is the deadline. So Steve Bannon will have a motion to dismiss, and I'm quite sure we'll cover that in depth. So we'll save that one for later in the week. Trump versus Clinton. Let's see what we've got here. Scrolling down, we've got April 11th. Several affidavits. Oh, other people were getting served. Oh, perfect. We got more service of process here. Who is this person? Peter Tickton. No, that's the lawyer. DNC Services Corporation was served. And who else is here? Peter Fritsch. Who is Peter Fritsch? I don't know who that is. So we made a video about all the people who were served previously. Peter Fritsch. Oh, partner over at Fusion GPS. That's who that is. Fusion GPS. Okay, good. So that's who that is. So it looks like he got served. That was on April 11th. Executed. This one was the DNC. This one was Wasserman Schultz. So in the video I covered on this, we covered all these already. Robert Mook. We had Igor Danchenko, the DNC. That was the DNC committee. This is DNC Services Corp that got served. So these two are new. Peter Fritsch, Fusion GPS, and then the DNC Services Corp. So new service. So that one's moving forward. Let's jump over to locals and see what's going on over there. We had a couple posts. Let's do a quick refresh on here. Joey Bondolero sharing this. New York Democratic Lieutenant Governor arrested. Yeah, we that's the one that we saw over on, I think that was on the Epoch Times. Bribery. Can't do that. You can't be a state comptroller and give people sweetheart deals. Hello. It's not appropriate. We had another one from B Spec says Vienticus posted a video on inflation. This is the link mentioned. Click on the dashboard. Really cool website. So Trueflation. Let's see what this one looks like. Go to the dashboard here. This is a really complicated thing to sort of figure out. There's a guy that I follow that I've talked about many times here on this channel called Balaji Srinivasan. And Balaji has sort of promised this challenge or proposed this challenge to really get the actual inflation data, because the numbers are so, they're so manipulated, just like anything else. The government comes out and they say, well, here's what the inflation rate is. And you say, well, what does that include? And they say, well, it kind of includes the stuff that we think is best for us. You have a whole subset. Let's say you have the entire universe of things. How do you get representative data on the actual inflation rate of the entire universe of things. It's very difficult to do. Everything that we listen to and analyze is just a tiny little subset of that big universe. And oftentimes that subset is just hand selected to give the numbers that the government wants, right? They sort of like throw certain things out of it. We just don't count those things. So here, this is an attempt, like what sounds like, to get the true cost of inflation. And one idea would be to like crowdsource the actual prices, right? So you have some sort of a major database. Everybody out there is just, scanning stuff with their phones everywhere they go. Every time they go to the grocery store, oh, what's milk? Oh, boom, milk. Oh, this is what it costs here in Phoenix, Arizona. What does it cost where you live? What does it cost where you live? And everybody's funneling that data, on, millions of different items that are for sale, cost of, major transactions, cost of gas, everything. And, you just sort of, average those numbers and then you come up with a result. So I don't know what the methodology here is, but here what you can see is true inflation rate. And it's, 13% according to Tuesday, 13.49. Wow. So this is like dynamic. So you can see it goes up a few 900th of a point there. True inflation category importance, current day, 28.9%. Look at this. Yeah, so let's see. What is this, a slider? Can I move? Medical care, transportation, inflation, 23%. Food, almost 30%. And obviously, that's the one that I think, food and transportation, these are things that everybody just sort of notices on a regular basis. They just wake up, they got to fill up their car, they know what it costs. They got to go buy a meal, they know what it costs. Some of these other things, if you're not sort of in the housing market, you may not notice it. If you're not ultra sick or education doesn't seem like it's changing all that much, but some of these are really impacting people. And things like food and transportation, those are typically impacting the people who are at the lower end of the financial spectrum, right? Who don't have a lot of disposable income. The people who are making $1 million a year, okay, if their food cost doubles, they don't care. Their food costs can go up 10 times. They don't care. They're going to still eat the fillets. They're not caring about that because it's so, they're not impacted by that. Whereas somebody who only has a $300 food budget a month, if their food doubles or goes up 30%, that's a big stinking problem. That means they get 30% less food. 30%. It's like one less meal a day. If you have a fixed food income, it's really horrendous. And the government doesn't care at all. I mean, at all. They just keep saying, well, we're going to adjust the ethanol formulation of our gasoline to deal with this 23%. Great. Good for you guys. So that means you get lower, gas mileage or, I don't know how that works, but it's not good. I think that Bitcoin fixes a lot of this, but this is not a financial channel or financial advice, of course. But, that's an asset that they cannot continue to inflate like they're doing with the dollar. So we'll see where that one goes. That was over from Locals from B-Spec, and to shout out to Vienticus for sharing that link. Posted a couple of the stories yesterday. Another one from Vienticus here. Yeah, we saw this. This is from Richard Medhurst. He's over on YouTube. So, of course, go watch his channel if you want to watch some of this. He's covering the Pakistani PM ousted in a coup. And I think we covered some of that, or I think you mentioned that yesterday, V, and I wasn't real sure, what the consequences of that were. So maybe I should watch that and, learn a little bit more about it. Basically, I think a lot of geopolitical issues, obviously, going on in that part of the world. A little bit of a restructuring. Here's that link from Vienticus that Bonnie pointed out. This is the true inflation rate to track daily, so check that one out. Guilty on all counts. Yeah, I saw this. Couple guilty verdicts for couple J6 defendants came out yesterday. Now, both of these, my understanding, are, just kind of joke cases. This is why you don't want to go to a jury in Washington, D.C., which is why I was surprised that Matthew Martin was able to get a bench trial. Bench trial being, a trial in front of the judge versus a trial in front of the jurors. They did that and they won. Because I'm pretty sure a DC jury is going to convict on anything. You could have been, in Maine. And if you got indicted for January 6th, anything, you could have been physically in Maine. DC jury is going to say, well, it's pretty close. I mean, they could just get in a car and come down here and insurrect again. So I think they'd convict you for basically anything. So it's a precarious position, right? This is why people plead guilty. If you're a lawyer and you're having this conversation with your client and you're looking at these things, you know, I don't know how strong or weak these cases are, but I'm guessing most of them are pretty weak because they're all basically pretty weak at this point. There's a handful of them that were, you know, violent, but most of them, out of the 700, 2 off-duty police officers were charged. Let's see what this one is. So is that the only photo that we've got? They took a photo in the Capitol building. Those terrorists, I can't believe it. So, you know, all right, whatever. That's another good one. Now, there's going to be more convictions coming out, no doubt about it. Vienticus says, this story is as old as civilization. This is what they do to us for their accumulation of power. The missing of Mariupol under fire, special report. A good share from V. Mr. MVP is talking about California teacher arrested for engaging in some bad activities with some students. 29 separate counts. Woo! You know, yeah, I mean, it's a bad teacher there. Anessa Page Grower. 7 students, graphic photos online while working. What happens to these people, man? It's crazy. They're teachers, and it sort of becomes like an acceptable thing. It's a weird phenomenon that happens. You know, and look, obviously I'm a criminal defense attorney. We represent people who are in, you know, difficult mental states all the time. It's, you know, it's what we do. We're very good at helping people. But there's something interesting that happens with these teacher situations that we don't see in the other context oftentimes. Oftentimes you'll see people charged with, you know, similar crimes where they've got a pattern. But more often than not, you know, it's not 7 of them. Like you don't get a lot of, honestly, right? You don't get a lot of SA cases, certain types of assault cases that go with, you know, 7 or 8 people before they pop the person who was responsible for it. You know, normally it's 1 or 2, you know, it's one report. It is corroborated by report number 2, and boom, that guy's, you know, in trouble, and they go get that person. This is 7 kids. Over the course of how long? 29 different counts. And so it's like, my goodness, like she's just openly, you know, in just kind of like living this lifestyle at work. It's weird. And nobody knows about it for a while. So thanks for that, Mr. MVP. Supreme Court says you can sue cops who frame you on false charges. The previous standard barring such lawsuits made little sense, wrote Justice Brett Kavanaugh for the majority, which is very good news, of course, right? You know, there's a big problem, I think, of insulating law enforcement and insulating prosecutors and insulating politicians from their own misdeeds. It's ridiculous. Everybody else is liable for their bad acts. Why are they not? They get this qualified immunity nonsense. It's ridiculous. So I think that if there's more, you know, sort of accountability there, then that will be a better thing. So let's see what else we've got over on. Let's check out some of the supporter comments over on YouTube. Deborah Yunker posted on the fake agent story saying that they were tipped off, says, follow the money and you'll find the people they're working for. Pretty simple. Yeah, and they're trying to do that, you know, and they're trying to say it's sort of Pakistani intelligence that these guys were, or at least Haider Ali was traveling around, and his mom wrote in and said, you know, yeah, Iraq and Pakistan and all different places, but he wasn't radicalized, had nothing to do with anything, was just experimenting with this new philosophy and was sort of engaging in his religious practice. That's all. So, you know, I don't know. And there's another point to that, Deborah. It's a great question, but they may not have actually paid for those apartments, which is weird because apparently there's a default judgment for about $222,000 that they just didn't pay, right? They didn't pay for those rents. But why were they not evicted then? Like, why does an apartment just let people live there for 12 months and not evict them? Another one from Deborah says, isn't that something that the judge was confused about? Keeping these 2 in custody, they can keep the January 6 people in custody indefinitely. It really tells you something about our justice system. That's a great point, Deborah. And I didn't think to bring those 2 things together, right? Many J6 defendants are sitting in custody because they stepped foot into the Capitol building. These 2 guys allegedly compromised Secret Service agents that were protecting the White House and Jill Biden. And the judge is like, I'm not sure what I can do about this one. Danielle DeFries says Persia is Iraq now. And that was on the headline story that we did yesterday. Shout out to Danielle DeFries. Peas and Butter says, good content. This is why I joined your channel early on. Thank you. Well, thank you, Peas and Butter. And this was an old one. This was on the Texas video. The Texas sues Georgia, Ted Cruz. That was an old video, Peas and Butter. So thanks for joining up and being here. Let's see. Did we get these yesterday? Danielle DeFries. The government, through the use of its agencies in partnership with corporations, is more focused on monitoring and enslaving the American people than anything. Stuff like this is to be expected. That's another fake agent comment. Kate Zapp says, wow, we were right. The CIA, DHS, FBI, and other federal law enforcement agencies are full of idiots, and they are soft. So busy rewarding themselves, this happens, and this is just the one you just discovered. How many more are there out there? It's a good question, and I think that's, a lot of people are thinking about that now. And remember that movie Training Day? And there were those two guys that were like these fake agents that sort of just like were, just running savage campaigns over the entire city. Kind of reminded me of that. And then Ethan Hunt, what's his name? Ethan Hawke? Ethan Hunt's Mission Impossible, right? He goes in there with Denzel, and they got to take care of these two guys. Was that movie? I think it was. We have EAGRD says, oh my goodness, what can I say? Great reporting. Thank you. I think we covered all these other comments. And so we'll leave it there, my friends. That was the update on the day. Headlines, docket update, comments update, amazing stories from our friends over on Locals, and great comments from our supporters on YouTube. Thank you, everybody, for allowing the day to get started off with a nice conversation. I hope everybody has an amazing rest of your week. Make it a great day. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.